Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'll be updating my presidential election prediction. I currently have all the solid and likely states filled in, and so I'm going to start with the lean states. First, I'm going to change Nevada from likely Democratic to lean Democratic. The main reason for this is because recent polls have had Biden up only by about 4 to 5 points, and I previously thought Biden was going to win the state by around 7 points, but these polls are making me think it's going to go a little closer than I previously thought, and so I do think Biden is still going to win the state, but only by around 5 points. Along with Nevada, I think Arizona is going to be a lean Democratic state as well. It still feels a little weird thinking that Arizona is going to have a 6 point swing towards the Democrats, but all the polling data and voter trends, I think Biden's going to win. There have been a few polls that have Trump within a couple points of Biden, but I think those are the outlier polls in the state, and I think Biden's going to win by around 3 points, maybe a little less. In the state of Iowa, there haven't really been many polls this year, but Trump won it by around 9 points in 2016, and I don't really see it flipping, but I could see it narrowing from that margin to around 5 points. Out of Ohio, Trump has had a consistent 4 to 5 point lead in the last 3 weeks or so, and he won it by around 8% in 2016. So I think he's probably still going to win it by around 5 points, but maybe a little bit more, or maybe a little bit less. In the state of Georgia, Trump won by around 5 points in 2016, and polls have generally shown Trump up by a smaller margin than that, but still have him winning. Some polls show Biden up by a tiny margin, and some have shown Trump up by a bigger margin than just a couple points. And so I think the average polls probably have it around 3 points, and I do think I agree with that. I think he's going to win it by around 3 points. In Minnesota, the polling averages had a Biden lead shrinking in the last month or two, but recently Biden's been pulling back ahead, and multiple polls have had him up by bigger margins than they have been showing in the last couple weeks. And so I think Biden's lead has increased here, and I think he's going to win it by like 4 or 5 points. Michigan's polling average right now is the exact same as the national polling average, with a pretty large Biden lead. I don't think Trump is actually going to lose Michigan by over 7 points like the polls are saying, but individual polls have had Biden winning anywhere from 4 to 11%, which is a pretty huge gap. But I do think Biden is still going to win the state by around 5 points. In New Hampshire, Biden had a huge lead in the polls, but recent polls have shown a smaller lead for Biden, even having Trump within around 3 points. And so I don't think Trump is going to win the state, but I think he is only going to lose by around 3 or 4 points. I'm moving the state of Wisconsin from tilt D to lean D. Most recent polls have had Biden up by at least 5 points, and his lead seems to be growing. Trump won the state in 2016, but I think he's going to lose it by around 4 points in this election. I'm also moving North Carolina from tilt R to lean R. This is because recent polls have shown Trump to be winning North Carolina, with very few showing Biden winning. And if Trump keeps the momentum of his support growing in North Carolina, I think he's going to win by 2 or 3 points. I think Texas remains a tilt Republican state. Trump continues to win polls in this state, but only by a very small margin, like 1 to 3 points. So I think he's going to win by a little over 1 point, and that's much closer than we're used to seeing Texas. But it seems like that's the way it's going this election, so I do think it's going to be a tilt Republican state. In my last prediction, I didn't classify Florida because of how close it was, but now I'm more comfortable with classifying Florida as tilt R, because since my last prediction, Biden's lead in the polls has narrowed, and if Trump keeps this momentum, he'll be able to narrowly win the state. Finally, I'm changing PA from tilt D to tilt R. This is because a lot of polls have a much narrower lead for Biden than they had for Hillary Clinton at the same time 4 years ago, and they're still narrowing. Trump is still gaining momentum in this state. And the main reason I changed my mind on PA is because of voter registration momentum. In Pennsylvania, Republicans have a net gain of over 75,000 registered voters, while Democrats have a net loss of over 90,000. And Trump won the state very narrowly in 2016, so if Republicans are gaining voters at this speed, and they can continue this momentum in Pennsylvania, they are going to win it by maybe even more than a tilt margin. But right now, I do think only by around a point or maybe less. So this is my final updated prediction, which is a 269 to 269 electoral college tie. Although this would technically mean a Trump win because of the House of Representatives and the way it votes for the president in this scenario, a couple faithless electors really could swing the election in either way. So a tie outcome would actually be a lot more complicated than just going to the House. Um, and I'm not entirely sure if my prediction is going to stay like this going like into November. But I feel like it could end up staying like this, and that would be a very confusing time after the election. So thank you for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe and leave a like on the video, and check out our other videos. So yeah, thanks for watching.